Hello viewers, my name is Adam.
I'm Aaron.
This is Sticky Made Productions bringing you another movie review.
So we finally got the second, go round for this revitalization of the Universal Monster movies being done by Leigh Whannell, and we're talking about Wolfman.
Yeah, it's just Wolfman, nothing with a D.
Yeah, no, the.
We ended 2024 with the remake to Nosferatu.
Mm-hmm. So it's actually kind of poetic for us to be entering into the new year with a werewolf movie.
Or another Universal Monster, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Nosferatu Focus Features is a Universal production.
That's true.
Wolfman is a reboot, reimagining of the classic 1941 film, way back when the Universal Monsters were starting to become a thing.
And that one being helmed under the actor of Lon Chaney Jr. when he played the titular character.
And Universal, they technically don't necessarily do that many werewolf movies as they do.
Dracula, Flair,
or the Mummy,
or Frankenstein. You got quite a few more hits than Wolfman really did. And to be honest with you, that in and of itself is a huge issue, at least for my part. Been a big fan of the monster movies genre in general, and films in general, but I've always been a fan of monster movies. And Universal Monsters, or characters that appear in those films, always hold such a close aspect in my heart. And I feel as though when it comes to any of those particular creatures, the character of the Wolfman or werewolves in general has been treated like the redheaded stepchild for cinema for far too long.
Yeah, the last time Universal attempted to do a very definitive werewolf movie was another previous remake of the Wolfman back in 2010, starring Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins.
That one, even though it has quite a bit of issues in and of itself, I did find myself enjoying at least the practicality of it, and it still, at the end of the day, felt incredibly faithful towards its predecessor.
And werewolves in general, I could probably say the werewolf genre, a subgenre of horror movies or fantasy films in general, they most likely peaked in the 1980s, where special effects, practical designs were very much a staple in that era.
However, I feel as though when you look at all those films and then you compare them against one another, most of them at the end of the day actually share quite a bit of the same, quote unquote tropes that appear in werewolf genre in and of itself. That genre has been played with far too safely, in my opinion, and it very rarely ever steps out of the same concepts that has been introduced throughout that genre since its entire conception. But as it stands, where does this new rendition lands when we think about it and actually look at it through the actual appropriate lens?
So Wolfman is, like we said, is a reimagining reboot of the original 1941 film. It actually bears very little to that film. Exactly.
I feel as though when it came to this particular aspect, at least under the guidance of Leigh Whannell, he very much like he did with The Invisible Man, decided to put this more into the modernized era and also look at it through the lens of a more realistic take, which in certain ways and respects seemed to be a more interesting angle to take the concept of the Wolfman, i.e. werewolves.
Now, in this modern setting, it takes place mostly in Oregon, the state in the United States, where not necessarily is set in Hollywood most films.
And to be honest with you, looking at it from the lens of how this film depicts that state, it needs to be used a little bit more often because it's beautiful up there.
That's assuming if it was actually filmed there.
That's true. You're right.
That being said, and the part of the reason why it's taking place mostly in Oregon is because the family is traveling back to the father, who is Blake Lovell in this movie, his
childhood
home, who after getting official notice of his father's death, decided to take his family there to clean up the house and to possibly reconnect some friction that's between his own family that he's trying to raise.
Yeah, a lot of the deeper elements of this film revolves around Blake's personal attachments or history with his connections towards his father, that of the aggressive tendencies that came up through this toxic masculine aspect of wanting to be the family protector, but also coped with the concept of the modern elements of parenting and trying to balance work life and social dynamics within the family's household.
So what Leigh Whannell, what so far is looks like a common trend that he's doing with, at least for the second installment of his rebooted Universal films, is to put in a more of a domestic layer into this movies to make them a lot more relatable in a sense.
However, with a movie that we're dealing with called The Wolfman, one has to be, thinking on how does the werewolf elements, trickle into this story. Well, the unique aspect that Whannell tries to infuse that particular part of the mythos into the story deals with this cabin fever element that he attaches to his variation of the Wolfman. That being a disease that seems to have came out of the history of the land itself and the exposure of the elements that has taken hold of certain individuals who got lost out there and have rapidly deteriorated and turned them into something inhuman and savage.
Now, the what, who, what, when, where, why of this so quote unquote virus or illness that's expressed in this movie is not necessarily explained.
No.
Vampires themselves, they sometimes some vampire movies go with the virus route.
But I feel as though where a lot of vampire movies actually, when they do introduce that element to the vampire myth or mythology or the mythology of these supernatural creatures in general, where they do go right is that again, it's not about just telling us about it; it's about showing us. And that whenever you enter in a concept, a scientific method into explaining how things are developing in your story, it is the responsibility of writers and directors to emphasize the scientific elements that helps us actually visualize what is going on.
I would say that from the setup of what we get in the first act of this movie, it's like it sets up the relationship between his father and his family, his wife specifically, and his daughter. And it had grew up this angle with the father. Looks like he's been part of this watchdog group.
Which honestly, throughout this film, you really don't even get a good sense of where that was going. I feel as though a lot of the issues that deals with the Wolfman, as far as the story is involved, is that it at some point during the multiple reshoots and editing that went on for this film, a lot of story elements were probably dropped and put onto the writing's floor, and I feel as though we're missing some of that stuff that could have honestly expanded this story to the areas that it needed to have been. At best, a lot of what actually ends up out of the story for the Wolfman seems almost like a short story expanded, and honestly, that is not what you want to do with a feature-length film.
This movie actually could have benefited with a lot more characters.
Simply adding in characters that would have helped explain and actually emphasize the history of that concept would have went a heck of a long way to actually elevating this movie to where it honestly should have been.
But what we have the father, played by Christopher Abbott, who's playing the character of Blake Lovell. As expressed before,
he's a very likable guy, definitely an individual that you root for, and you feel very attached to, especially when the way that this actor portrays a father who's desperately trying to protect his family, specifically his daughter. You feel all the emotions he has, especially during his points where he is unfortunately dealing with the horrors that is surrounding him.
Yes, he is put through the ringer a lot, and the actor has been doing a very commendable job doing so. Um, character who played the wife, Julia Gardner, who played the character of Charlotte LaBelle. I like Julia Gardner from her work in Ozark, and I'm happy to see some good work start coming out for her.
However, I will emphasize that I feel as though her role in this film was a little bit under written for my taste, especially when the dynamics they try to intertwine with her character, that being a mother who was dealing with the balancing act between work life and home life.
Yes, we know that in the beginning of the movie, she is set up as right now the main breadwinner, and she has a detachment of sorts with her daughter, so she doesn't feel as much as though she can relate to her. We don't necessarily see that that struggle at all.
No, it's really just her going beat by through the numbers of reacting to what is going on around her, not necessarily having to do with the internal struggles that deals with her actual background.
Her character of Ginger, the daughter. Both of these characters, unfortunately, are only reacting to what is unfolding with the main of the title character, Wolfman, who is the husband / father figure of Blake Lavelle.
Yeah.
And yes, the father character is also a character we mostly only see in the beginning. Essentially, after Act 3, first act, as soon as they start traveling and they get
to the house,
the situation, the inciting incident, as you say, takes shape. It abandons so much of what was laid out in favor of this more metamorphosis of the film, essentially.
And I guess with the metamorphosis element of the Wolfman, there are elements about it that I actually did like, and that was mostly that was being helmed under the fantastical sound direction for this film. What they do with sound in this film is noteworthy. It's an auditorial feast where you're actually really able to express all the unique elements that goes on in a wilderness environment that the family is set in, and especially seeing it through the eyes of an individual whose heightened senses are becoming attuned with their more primordial self. You actually you'll get to feel that. However, there are other elements where certain other senses come to play, and I feel as though they didn't really necessarily work out as much as I feel as though they should have, especially when it was actually done better in certain other movies or genres. When you look at the concept of the beast element of the Wolfman, this was a situation that I was fearing going into before I even saw this film. When we was first hearing its development, it may not be privy to a lot of individuals out there, but at some point during the Universal Studios Horror Nights presentation, a element of the film before it was actually released or even started showing its trailers was released out there to the public, and very unfortunate
theater stand-in of what a model of what the final look came out. Wasn't necessarily the best foot forward.
No. Thankfully, however, I am happy to report that is definitely not the case.
I would say the look still might not be working for everybody.
No.
In the context of this movie, it's passable.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been a lot worse than what was shown.
Ooh, yeah.
But it
serves the purpose of the plot for why the characters that are afflicted with the lycanthropy in this film look the way they do.
As we say, this is a metamorphosis movie, and a lot of this metamorphosis is expressed through body horror.
Think The Fly, y'all. That's the best way I could probably...
Low scale.
Yeah, low scale The Fly. Not nearly to the same extent where that movie went. But it has its moments.
So yeah, the movie at the end of the day is very bare bones in the scripting
Mm-hmm.
that could have easily been beefed up. We understand this movie is produced by Blumhouse Productions.
And where that studio is notorious for only doing the bare bones what they need in order to push a movie out, because their whole business is about getting those residuals, making sure they get the best bang for their buck.
And we have seen plenty of Blumhouse Productions where they are able to have some solid scripts
Mm-hmm.
that makes up for that elevates whatever budget they can do. From Megan,
Mm-hmm.
I would say the first couple of
The
Halloween
movie.
trailers,
Yeah.
and some others. Nope.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
here's the problem. Again, when looking at the history for Hollywood, when it comes to the concept of the werewolf, and especially when we look at something that was supposed to be dealing with a Hollywood legend, being that of the Wolfman, it is highly imperative that we finally take that creature, that character, back to the heights that it originally was, or beyond it. Because to be honest with you, even in its original conception, it was not given the same due that the rest of his other contemporaries got. Werewolf movies deserve better, and I demand to see better films produced.
So, what we feel about Wolfman, directed by Leigh Whannell. At the end of the day, I think is an okay movie.
That's the same.
If you plan on watching this movie, make sure you have some really good surround sound system.
Yes.
Because it does make the difference of your possible enjoyment. My name is Adam.
You know, I'm here.
And this has been a Seeking Me Productions. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment below what are your takes on the werewolf genre.
Yeah, what's your favorite werewolf movies? What do you honestly want to see out of those particular kinds of movies? I know that I have my ideas. Adam got his, but mass audiences need to really step into what do we need out of werewolves.
And also stay tuned for other content that we will post on our also social media outlets of X, Threads, Instagram, and also Letterboxd.
See y'all later.
See you.